Hey everybody, Sal here again. And on today's expedition, we are going to one of the sketchiest, if not the sketchiest, marketplace in the Baltimore area. So what we're looking at right now, this is a building that shares the parking lot with our venue today, which is disgusting. There's flower pots that are littered with garbage and signs that tell you to keep your feet off the wall. And this structure is inhabited by a clearance liquidator, a bingo place, and a bunch of restaurants on top of an arena that you can book for weddings. But today, our main event is the Patapsco Flea Market. This place is amazing and also incredibly shady. I'll get into a lot of the details on why I believe it's shady a bit later in the video. You know, I never have change on me, but it's a good thing today that I did because this place costs 25 cents for admission, and they're not willing to bend on that. And during my expedition to this place, I did notice there were a few points of entry, but I went into this one because it said main entrance. And as you'll see, it was a good thing I had my quarter because there is a lady in a blue striped shirt manning the desk, and also a guy in a black shirt that was a security guard. So when you first walk in this place, it seems like a labyrinth. There's a million different entrances to a million different parts of the flea market. But once you finally get to the main opening at this place, you can tell that it's gargantuan. There's just vendors everywhere. There's hundreds of vendors. And, you know, it harkens back to my expedition out to Seoul Plaza. Even the Annandale one. The idea was to pack as many vendors as you can into this space. And they did exactly that. I know it's a flea market, and this isn't a new idea. But this place is just it's a fire hazard was my first thought. It's a fire hazard. And once I started actually doing some research on this place, one of the first articles that popped up was that there actually was a fire at this place back in August of this year in 2017, August 27th. And it happened at like 5 in the morning when nobody was there. So now don't lie, but you would definitely take your computer there for service, right? I mean, come on, it's gorgeous. That place looks like a perfectly run operation. I'll bet you a sandwich that that door leads to platform 9 3/4. And right now we see our first spotting of a Tiki bar. And there are, I believe, 3 total bars in the Patapsco Flea Market. Now, this wasn't my first time here. I did come here, I've been here actually 2 other times. And a few months ago I came with my family because they needed to see it. And one of the other tiki bars was absolutely jam-packed. There were people dancing all over the place. It was amazing. And here we find ourselves in another one of those wings, another one of those big open spaces that pack vendors as tightly as possible. If you can find an exit sign, let me know. But at least they have hundreds of swords for sale. That's the important thing. So of all the super interesting things that I've seen in this place,
One of the most interesting is right here. It's the Muslim prayer room. Now, I don't know why something like this must exist at a marketplace. I've never seen something like that before at a place of retail. If any of you know, please let me know in the comments why that is here. Perhaps it's because if there's a tenant that's selling something, they need to have that available, or maybe it needs to face a certain way towards, I think, Mecca. I might be totally off. I'm not sure. But if you know why that exists, please let me know in the comments. I'd be really appreciative.
All right, here we go. We're going into the food court now, which does in fact have another Tiki bar. So that's number 2 so far. The entire food court's pretty awesome. There's some sweet neon all over the place. Some of the neon signs are actually out, unfortunately. But it smelled amazing in here, I'm not gonna lie. The pizza that I saw looked pretty gross. You probably wouldn't get pizza there. But the rest of the smells and the food looked pretty good. Yeah, that doesn't look so hot. But just remember, we're still looking for exits. And at this point, this is one continuous walk through this place. And I don't see an exit here. Or at least I don't see an advertised exit. I see restrooms, I see restaurants, I see an ATM, but as far as I'm concerned, if we needed to evacuate this place for some reason, we would all have to single file almost through this place back to where we came from, which is pretty crazy to me. That I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I would like exits, pronounced exits, in case there is a fire. Okay, so now we're just feet away from where we just were at the food court. And we're in another giant space, and this is the first one where we can see an exit sign. And to our left, Memory Lane. It's another corridor in this place that links the giant common areas where they have, tons of vendors. But as you can see, they have vendors stacked here, right next to each other. And they're gonna sell you everything and anything. And it's a pretty long corridor. So at this point, we've pretty much touched all of the big areas except for one that houses the bingo. And we're about to circle back to the entrance that we first came in. And as you see there, they have their rental offices. I don't know what the F that is, that's super weird. But there are a ton of signs saying no counterfeit merchandise allowed. Almost an abundance, an overabundance of those signs. It's almost overkill. But now we're in the front corridors of this place. And we're approaching, at the very end of this corridor, the third Tiki bar. Okay, let's talk about crime. So back in August of 1990, two guys, two absolute scumbags, Wesley A. Brown and Robert B. Carroll, they were arrested for selling stolen goods. Now, the police, they concluded that these two guys robbed over 20 Protestant churches. It started back in Wheaton, Maryland, in like the Silver Spring area, and it reached all the way to Baltimore with robberies in between like Howard County,
Prince George's County. And these scumbags, they would find churches that were in kind of darker areas at night with little lighting. They would go into the churches, spend a bunch of time there. They would just eat ice cream sandwiches, is what the report said, and just drink soda. They would steal a bunch of stuff. The cops said they stole hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. They then linked the stolen merchandise back to Wesley Brown, who lived right near the Patapsco Flea Market, and this is where he sold all that stuff. So anyway, while we're about to approach this tiki bar, it's dead today, the day I went, but I do have footage of the day I went with my family, of when it was popping, and of them completely scared at this place. So as you can see, my family really wanted to FO out of this place. But I can't find one other place in the Baltimore region that you can get a Ciroc and Hennessy and a hot dog with all the works for $8. Find me that place and the argument's over. I guess I should have used this entrance if I wanted to save 25 cents, because nobody was there. They weren't checking. So back on the topic of the crime, in 1996, which was 6 years after the two guys were arrested, the Baltimore police, they charged 30 vendors here with selling counterfeit clothes. They confiscated over $1 million worth of fake Nike and Timberland and Tommy Hilfiger apparel. Then in 2004 and subsequently in 2006, the Baltimore police, they seized what they found were professional sports league apparel, but they were counterfeit, branded with Nike and Lacoste, and they took all this stuff and they charged a few more vendors. So this is one of the final big areas that you can find yourself in, and it actually does have an exit. And this is where you saw in that flashback when I was here with my family, this is where we exited. Now, the reason it does have an exit is because this bingo hall is open to the public in a wider availability than the actual flea market. The flea market's only open Saturday and Sunday. Okay, so in 2010, the feds in the port of Baltimore, they indicted 9 people after seizing about $250 million worth of counterfeit goods, which were shipped from and manufactured in China. This led the Department of Homeland Security investigations, which is a part of the U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, to the Patapsco Flea Market, because they were able to track the bill of sale for a lot of those items back to the Patapsco Flea Market. So Homeland Security set up a sting operation at Patapsco Flea Market that would ultimately take 2 years to fully come to a conclusion. They rented booths, they sold stuff here, they just ran a total undercover sting operation. Ultimately, they successfully raided the place over the course of a few days in April 2012, where they seized 220,000 items, which had a street value, if they were legitimate, of 47.3 million bucks. So we're gonna go back into the last few parts of this place. And as you'll see here to your right, this is the first time that I actually saw an exit sign within one of these inner compartments. So the slogan that management came up with for this place was, when you want the best, we'll make you forget the rest. But they packed way too many vendors into this place to make me forget anything. But now, if you'll notice, we see more exit signs that we didn't see at the beginning. So I have a feeling that the owners had a very specific path in mind for you to travel through this place. You start at where we started, where you give them your quarter, you walk in through the little maze, and you ultimately wind up in this place that leads you right back to the bingo hole. I don't agree with that. I think it's terrible planning, because if you had to get out of this place quickly, heaven forbid something happens in here that you had to get out quickly and you're stuck in the middle, you're in trouble and you're gonna have a bad time. But again, it's a flea market. This is what these places do. They're packed full of vendors, and it is what it is. Okay, so if you want to sell stuff here, first you have to go to the Baltimore City Courthouse and pay $24 per year for a vendor's license. Then if you want to rent one of these spaces, you'll have to pay between $100 and $300 for the weekend. And your space will range from 7 by 18 feet up to 24 by 32 feet. You can also get an indoor table for $25 a day. They also do have an outdoor section, and those spaces are for 20 by 20 feet, and that's still $25 a day. Okay, so now we're at Appliance R Us. This is the shadiest part of the Patapsco Flea Market. You've got these appliances on the right, and a lot of them are dented, they're gross, they're old, and I can't help but think that half of them are hot. That have been, that fell off the back of a truck. And on the left, you've got computers that look like they're from the late 90s, like Packard Bell, compact Presarios that are old. You've got pet cages on your right, some shirts, some random stuff, but there's just, I think this is the last section of Patapsco Flea Market that you can get probably your best shot at getting a counterfeit item or a stolen item. Although, I did find a Nintendo game, the Toxic Crusaders. I'd probably go back here just to find more Nintendo games, because it's getting more and more rare to find those in the wild. But this is definitely the shadiest part. I'd like to thank you all for watching this video, and if you liked it, please subscribe and set your notifications on, because there are more coming up in the future. And if for some reason you didn't like the video, please let me know why, because I'd like to work to make it better for you guys. Take care. Oh, P.S. That music that was playing in the flashback sequence with my family, for those of you that stuck around, here's me playing violin in 6th grade.